Hello, welcome, and thanks for joining our next session. How do you communicate user research and findings with impact? We have Francisco Garcia, co-founder of Pixel Research Lab, and Maru Latorneria. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that close to right, sorry. She's currently leading human experience design at Colvin. If you have any questions for Francisco or Maru, you can drop them into the chat or the Q&A area, and I can keep an eye on that as we go. Or Francisco and Maru, if you guys want people to leave them in the board once we get to that time, that is, of course, totally fine as well. I think that's it. I can let you guys take it away.
Perfect. I wanted to have anyone edit. Okay. Just gonna put it here. In case that you want to follow us directly in the video board. Okay, so Fran, go ahead.
So we're really nice to have you all here. As Marisa said, we're Francisco and Maru, and we're here to discuss a little bit how to communicate research findings with impact, and basically best practices in the sector, or canvases like persona maps or user journeys. And they are a great way to collaborate with your team and summarize user research findings. But even these canvases can be a little bit overloading. In our case, as a research agency for the past 7 years, I'm working for like a bunch of different startups and types of clients, from like B2B, B2C, corporate, startup level and seed funding, and different sectors. We have realized that sometimes having these kind of clean, more designed canvases are great for our report one-pager, but they're not necessarily great at communicating those insights, especially key stakeholders, people all the way up that are key decision makers. They're not part of the process usually, and by the time you come with all that effort to present the findings and the insights, you find yourself that perhaps the knowledge transfer doesn't happen as smooth as you expected. In the worst case scenarios, the report kind of lie in a drawer collecting dust, and we have learned over time how to kind of fine-tune that punchline, and that's where we're here today, to kind of show you that process of how we try to create that story to communicate those findings. Basically, the agenda, it's simple. We're going to first explain the problem with canvases. We're also going to show, Maru's going to explain to us how to avoid some common traps, some cognitive biases that might come in our way when we're creating reports. And lastly, the solution, which is this process that we do together to kind of create the story that we're going to then communicate to our clients. Now, I make emphasis on the process because the output, once you have the story, the output is completely up to you or your team, depending also, in our point of view, as a word of advice, thinking about the type of audience you communicate. So if you know that people don't respond well to storyboards or they don't get it, then don't translate that story to a storyboard, but try to find out if they respond better to a straight up video or some kind of storyboard but that is animated, or perhaps they like better the PowerPoint slide by slide and you just tell me frame by frame. That's completely up to you. That output is definitely up to you and should be adjusted to your audience. But at any rate, what we're gonna go over today, and hopefully you'll all be able to use in your work, is kind of how to create that process to tell a story. So are we ready? Did I miss anything, Maru?
No, not at all. Thank you.
Awesome. So we have a problem, and we're going to use an example for the rest of the session. Basically, let's say for the sake of this session, right, it's kind of like a hypothesis, make-believe, that we are a plant-based food company, right? And we're trying to know better who our user is or our customer is. So if we are part of this company, most likely what we do as a team is we collected a bunch of data from everywhere and then, whatever's available, and then you sit with your team or the key decision makers in the best case scenario, and you sit down and you download a persona template kind of canvas. In this case, if you guys enjoyed this one, you can download it in Metaverse. We have uploaded it there a few years ago. But you get with your team, you do a session in Miro, you put all the post-its about things that you learn about our customer, right? People who are interested or buying plant-based foods. So this is awesome. And again, there's really no better way to kind of collaborate with your team and to ignite conversations and to kind of raise questions and prioritize, right? What's relevant, what's not, and how do we fill that in together? Canvases are awesome, right? And then what we did for many years and what many teams continue to do is then they get that canvas and they kind of clean it up, right? You create that one pager to include in your report and it looks awesome. And definitely a one pager has advantages, and this can be definitely also part of your report as you're presenting findings, but to tell the story and to have that impact so people remember the important thing that you want them to hold on to from your research. A canvas is generally a lot of information, right? So there's a lot of bullets and a lot of little boxes. People don't really know where to look at. Usually, again, like I said, if it's key stakeholders, key decision makers, directors, bosses, managers, they haven't been involved in the process, so they get this page and it's like a lot of things, right? One of the main issues for us in the past presenting these type of results before, it's hard to remember, it's less memorable, there's nothing sticky, right? You need that thing that sticks so people kind of always go back to that important thing that you found in your research. And in general, it's really our experience. So this is basically the problem we find, right? We're a plant-based company. We want to learn who our customer is. We did a session with our team. We launched everything in the Canvas, persona Canvas, and we cleaned it up. Now, how do we get to a better impact? How do we get to tell a story? And in order to do that, you need to avoid some common kind of traps. And I leave it to Maru to explain some of these cognitive biases.
Yeah, hello everyone, I'm Maru Laturneri. I'll be talking to you about the most common traps that I have found, especially ourselves being researchers. We fall for this trap that is knowledge curse, which it's pretty much assuming that everybody else knows what we know. And we take this assumption that everybody is familiar with what we're going to present, right? Like who doesn't think that everybody in the company should know about the user? But the reason that we're doing this research, in this case for this plant-based company, it's because we want everybody to know them, right? So sometimes we have that problem that we think that everybody should know, and we dismiss details because they might not be so important, or just because we assume that everybody should have that background knowledge. So this is the first one to avoid, and for you guys to think that no, not everybody knows the same information that you know. Not everybody has been sitting down in all those interviews, and that you have to explain the details. You have to explain things that might be obvious to you, so everybody can have the same knowledge. So that is the first one. We should avoid assuming that everybody knows. That's why your role is important, because not everybody knows. And the other part that is quite aligned with the Kanban format, let's remember, these canvases are for summarizing information. So it's a step in the process. It shouldn't be the deliverable, especially for communicating to the rest of the organization who is that persona, no, in this case, or the journey, right? So we tend to share this with I have even seen some canvases that have percentages and some statistics here and there. That's a lot to take from one pager. So let's keep in mind that a lot of information might be even hurtful. And sometimes as researchers, we also commit this thing that it's like, oh, everything, it's important. We have to include every single point of information that we believe is important. So let's try to avoid this. Let's try to simplify. and so we can actually get it more sticky to others. And the other one that you're going to see today quite frequent, that is repetition is key. Repetition is key because you have to empathize with your audience. And if your audience, the presentation of that persona or your findings of this user research is just I don't know, a 45 presentation, and you just gave them a lot of information about what happened in every single interview, and then you help them summarize on the Kanban, and you don't want to repeat information because we have been taught that, for example, in presentation, it's not so well that we repeat information, but that is how we learn. Repetition is key. And more if we want to make an idea popular or to believe that is true. In this case, it is true. You're showing your research, and you should have to repeat it. Repeat the things that are important. Repeat the things. For in this case, if we're talking about a persona that we just saw in the canvas, that is Monica, we have to repeat a lot the name of Monica. It has to be clear that after those 45 minutes of that presentation, people go with the name of, yeah, Monica is our users. We know which are her pains. We know that part of repetition. Sometimes we think that repetition might be redundant, but it's helpful. Empathize with that, your audience in that moment for those 45 minutes. It's learning from you, but then after that ends, they have other things. And if we don't repeat that information again with them, they might forget. So we have to rely on this. So let's remember in this case, which are going to be the common traps that we're going to avoid, which is knowledge curve, information overload, and repetition is key. And if we want to repeat it again, do it in your head. So yes, go ahead. For me, it has been so embedded in the way that I work. For me, simplify things is very complicated. I do believe sometimes that everything is super important and we shouldn't miss those details. This process helped me to get rid of the things that I hold myself quite strongly about the information that I get. So these three things help me a lot. We're sharing them because it have been proven for us that this helps. So we hope that these three things helps you too. So far, any questions, comments, or anything that we want to shoot from there?
No, the chat is sadly very quiet.
Okay. So for us, the solution to avoid these three common traps, it's to tell stories. The other day I was training someone into interviews and how to report those interviews. She was finding it super hard. And my recommendation was to tell stories. Tell me the story about this user that you interview. What was the name, where it was, what was the location, what is the condition, all these things that help us to communicate a story. It's not so far away from the way that we communicate stories between friends. If something happened to you, we have the character, we have plot, we have a moment of truth. So this is no different. So if you already have really good conversations with your friends, this is going to be easy for you. So this part of tell stories, we have used the best practices that Norman Ninsel Group have in their article. Actually, I think that in the notes you can find it. There you go. You can find them there. If you want to know a little bit more about UX stories, what we're going to map here is with that framework. We're going to put it here. And the steps that we take. So step number one that we know that our story should have is the main character, so people remember and empathize with this character. The user goal and motivation, the context, right? So where are we? Where does this story is taking place? Then number 4, which is the plot, the series of events along a timeline. And number 5, which is where we insert the understanding and communicate to the audience the significance of the situation. So we're gonna get started to build that story with these steps. I don't know if we're having here a message. Okay, so Fran, if you can get around with there you go. Thank you so much. So we are not saying in this session that you shouldn't do canvases. So
No, no,
bear
no.
with me. You still needed to do your story, because if you start to plot your story with a bunch of inputs from qualitative and quantitative research, you will still have it very hard to put together your story. So we're going to add another step to your process, which is after you have your canvas very clean, this one pager that everybody can see, we are going to start to build your story. So for those who are new to Miro, just with N, we get the notes, the post-its, sorry, and we're gonna start writing, which is who is the main character, which is Monica, right? And Monica is
young,
young,
caring, and fun.
caring, and fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I have to do this. My OCT doesn't let me. Okay. Then we go for the next step, which is goal and motivation. So
the main motivation in Monica's life is kind of looking for better food options that match her busy life.
Okay, so looking for better options to match her busy life. Perfect. And what is she trying to achieve?
According to our persona map that we built with the team, Monica's main job to be done is to keep herself healthy easily without harming anyone.
Okay. Perfect. So now we have that part.
Yeah. And I would say from the persona map, the main attributes that will give us context is definitely Spain. She's a Spanish young woman.
Mm-hmm.
She's vegetarian.
Okay.
She shares an apartment with her best friend.
Uh-huh.
That's relevant. Gives you like socioeconomic background, right? And the thing that she's looking to do, it's now, right? And I think that this is an important part in the when part of your storytelling. So if we were in a different project, like for, buying or leasing cars or, leasing an apartment, the context would be different. Maybe she would need it for a month from now, 6 months from now, depending on her living situation. But in this case, finding a way to stay healthy, that it's easy and doesn't harm anyone, she's looking for that right now. Yeah.
Okay, so we have these 3 parts. It is the same that we have here, right? But now we're just changing the order that we have here, but it's just for us to keep clarity that our character is Monica, young, caring, and fun. The goal is for her to looking for better options to match her busy life. What is she trying to achieve is to keep herself healthy easily without harming anyone. And the context is that she's in Spain. She shares an apartment with friend. She is vegetarian. This is important for us in this case. And when is this happening? It's happening now. She needs a solution now. Okay, yeah. So we have this clarity here. As you can tell, I have been repeating myself, so you guys remember this part.
Yeah. So I think, for the first part, to introduce her and provide context, I think we can start with something like this.
Okay.
Kind of like a bullet script. So I would say that Monica is young and Spanish woman living with her best friend, and like most young people, she's outgoing, caring, and likes to have fun.
Okay, so
From the
here
picture.
it's important, right? We have our plot as we saw in this recommendation, and here we have a plot of 3 acts. So in the first one, we're gonna introduce and provide context. In the second one, we're gonna talk about the problem or the pains, and the third one, we're gonna see how our character solves the problem today, so we can identify where that opportunity is. So I obviously, as you can see, we love Miro, and for me, I don't have time to design every single thing. So for me, the way that I work a lot and stay away from designing things is by using emojis. And here I just type woman and I bring her here, and we have here now our new Monica. And if I click here, you can see that, and this is something that we love, view all emojis, because we're gonna need a little bit more. So let's bring Monica's friend here and can put her at the front of everything. So here we can just bring to front. And this text, I really need it to be a little bit more. Let's put her kind of out the window. See, those things, people actually laugh when you're presenting these things, and that humor get us closer to remember things. And another one.
Yeah, while you're populating the drawing, I think the cool thing about emojis definitely is that it's sort of a universal language that everybody understands, and it takes away from complexes like I don't know how to draw or I don't know how to use a design tool with a computer. I mean, emojis are already pictograms that you can use on the go to kind of tell your stories visually. And I do agree with Maru. In our experience, I would say not 100% because there's always a little hater here and there, but 95% of the time, people laugh when they see these little emojis narrating stories. So it works for us also in terms of humor and kind of empathy.
Okay, we can start putting our message here. There you go.
Yeah.
So we start to give a little bit of context. Probably my designer here will recommend me not to twist the words like that.
No, legibility is important, but it's okay. I think based on what we have, kind of the second part of her context, because now we know who she is. She's young, she's Spanish, she lives with her best friend, and like most young people, she's outgoing and caring and likes to have fun. But she's super busy. She's finishing school and working, and she wants better food options that match her busy life. Which it's kind of a nice way to put that motivation in context. Why is she looking for these food options that match her busy life? Well, she's actually busy. She's in school. She's working. She's young. She's sharing an apartment. There's a million things going on. So it's a nice way to nudge that motivation in the story.
So let's put, she is busy, right? She's at school. Oh, there you go. You already have it.
Sorry.
Don't worry.
She wants that healthy.
Let's put work here as well.
Beautiful.
All right, and we can make this a little bit bigger here. Left align it. There you go. We can do this even bigger because this is the most important part, to give context to Monica.
Yeah.
Okay.
So while you're curating that, if I go to the problem, right, in the persona canvas, we have the pains. She says lack of time to prepare the meals, organic food is expensive, vegetarian options are limited, and she has that kind of guilt, that she doesn't want to harm anyone or any animal in the process. So I think it's a nice way to start like establishing a little bit that problem. And here, one of the advices that we get from Norman Nielsen Group is to try to create that empathy and that depth to the character. So I think it's kind of a way to create that higher impact, that you have this nice picture of a young girl. She's living with her best friend. She's studying. She lives in Spain, but 3 times a day, right? She feels a little overwhelmed and guilty. And I think that contrast can create empathy and highlight a little bit that pain for her, right?
Okay, so
yeah, she's heartbroken
here. Oh, this is
like a cow or something.
So I don't know, for me, this is the part that is more fun to create these stories and how I'm going to communicate this part. So we have this first problem, right? And then we're missing the other one.
Yeah, I'm coming.
And here we can highlight our overwhelmed and guilty, and then she's just looking to eat healthy food without harming anyone. So that part is important for us, right? And here we're gonna do the same. We're just gonna change it from post-it to block of text. We're picky with this alignment, and here we have for Monica, who has her first job. Here are key words that we're keeping so we can understand better the story of Monica. So she's in her first job. For her, organic food is expensive, and some vegetarian options are limited. So we start to work more with this pain.
I also think it's great, just what you're looking for, the little pictograms. I think it's great also when the storytelling gets intertwined with things you know from people around you. So we're trying to create that empathy and connection. And I think it could be interesting if we make that simile, that despite she's vegetarian, she still misses kind of like that juicy feel of a hamburger, because, I have a lot of vegetarian friends. They all have that kind of same instinct that, they're doing it because of a good cause, not necessarily because they don't like it. So I think it's like a factual thing, but that could enhance that empathy for her. Yeah.
Did you place it here? Yeah. No. There you go.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. We definitely try to use some humor and make it a little bit more fun, just to stand out from the regular information that we see every day at work. We want it to be different. If we use the same template or the same presentation that we always use, sometimes the information inside there, it doesn't call our attention. So we definitely want to call people's attention when they're looking at this. And I'm just going to align them here. There you go. So now we can start with the repetition exercise. Now we have Monica, and you will see that if someone from content reviews this, we'll take away Monica name in most of our phrases, but this is intentional. As I said, we want people to leave the session remembering who Monica is. And here, when we compare it with this phrase, that she lives in a shared apartment with her best friend, it's very different than if we accompany that with something that we create in just minutes, super quick, when we are already putting even a face to her friend, right? We put the place where she's living, where Monica is living. We try to be a little bit more visual with the actions that she is taking, and then with the pains as well, highlighting the things that we want people to keep in mind. So eating healthy food without harming anyone. Organic food is expensive. Sorry, vegetarian options are limited, and the part that Fran was mentioning, which is make it a little bit more human than just this narration. So this part of, yes, she's vegetarian, but she misses the feel of a juicy burger. Definitely start to get some nuances about who this person is. And
we come to the third act, which
we
is
come
great.
to
So I think a good highlight is for people to understand this process of the linear timeline and to create the three acts really helps us kind of pull apart the different findings into a linear moment. So the third act is the great part, right? It's the opportunity. And we know that she used Uber Eats, and we know that that's how she found that restaurant for plant-based food. So that was her initial trigger. Having that, oh, plant-based food, what is that? And she gave it a try.
phone. Right, that's how she did it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The problem is obviously, we know that she doesn't have necessarily the budget for this lifestyle to order out every day. So this is not a permanent solution, right? This is just a trigger for her. And she's definitely learning more about plant-based foods. She's no expert, obviously. But she knows that she's busy and she's already looking for things that are easy and fast to make. So ideally for her, it would be great to find a brand or a company that sells plant-based meals that are easy and fast, right?
This is what she wants, right? So for us, going from the brainstorm with our team, from Post-its to this type of, let's call, I don't want to insult any designer here, but kind of with this design, it helped us a lot to go faster and share something that it's different from what they are used to.
Yeah.
Okay. Putting together this part. Perfect. And here we went way up. Let's bring her a little bit this part.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the punchline, right? We need a punchline.
Exactly. We need to tell people what we need to do. So sometimes when we present this canvas with the information, although this is the summary and everything, it's hard for some people to know what to do for Monica. Although you
And to
work
connect
in
the dots, right? How the different insights that you have, like, the apps that she uses and the pains and the gains connected to a single person and a moment in their life, right? I think that that's important for sure.
Yeah, so then here we have a clear call to action to our team, regardless of where, which section of the company they work. We can all relate to something more general. So if we do that presentation, instead of presenting that canvas, we go from these frames, frame by frame, explaining this part.
Yeah. I mean, this is the important part. The output is completely up to you guys. For us, this is the process of how we break away from the canvas mentality and the framing of the canvas to try to tell a story about Monica, right? So once we have this process, if we know that the client only watches videos and will definitely get that video, then we make it into a little video. We go into Canvas. If we want to be super lean, we still use these pictograms and these emojis, and we animate them frame by frame, like a sliding PowerPoint, but animated. And if we want to be lean, but the output of how you want to present that, if it's a storyboard or a video or some kind of like slider show, I've seen agencies do like Instagram stories to present their findings. I mean, then the output is whatever you want it to be. But the process to get that story, that UX story, this is basically the process so we can have that line, that timeline. And in this case, for Monica,
Yeah. So, and sometimes you don't have a team to turn this into other type of outcome. This could also be what you show. Especially if you're a solo researcher and you have to collect your data, analyze your data, synthesize it, then present it, then it's like a lot of skills that you are supposed to have, and sometimes that's not reality. So not knowing how to use a design tool, even if it's super easy and everybody claims that it's the most easy thing. I know that there's some tools out there that seems that that is the case. But if you don't have that and you don't even have the time, I think that took us like 15 minutes to do this. And it's different. It's definitely different than presenting the Canva. We don't have that information overload. We're still using the same information, but we're telling it as a story, right? So Act 1, it's introduce and provide context, where we're telling, well, this is Monica. She is young. She lives in Spain. She lives with her best friend. She's even there. We can see her. Then we have a little bit of context about her, which is she's super busy. She's studying school. She's working, and she is looking for better food options. Even for us, as presenters of this information, having these cues of the emojis makes it easier for you to present it. Like, I don't have to be reading what I'm sharing with you. Then the problem and the pain, very clear. We have these three pains or problems. So she feels overwhelmed with and guilty. She's trying to eat healthy food without harming anyone. We know that this is one of her main pains. Then the part of money, because we know that she struggles between studying and working, probably is the first job around her age. Then we know that she's still human. She is vegetarian, but she misses that part of juicy burger. And then we have, how does she solve it? Well, she found a solution, but it's not the solution that she's completely looking for, because it cannot sustain it, because we already know that she has some issues with the spending, right? And then we have Monica that is learning more about plant-based food, but she's not an expert, so she still needs to be guided. Oh, I don't know who put us this. Thank you. I will take it away. Then Monica is looking for brands that allow her to easily prepare her own plant-based meals fast. So, team, let's be Monica's solution for affordable, easy-to-make plant-based meals. And that is the story that we have to tell. We don't have to give a lot of percentages and every single snippet of every interview, because I have also seen those presentations that are super long and we just get a lot of people repeating different things about the product. People might get lost. So the more that you simplify it, this could be the part of your presentation. Then the other layer could be that one pager of the Canva, and then your report. So it's a little bit like progressive disclosure of information. But if you stay with this simple story, it doesn't matter which level of the organization you're talking to. It doesn't matter their expertise in this subject. Everybody can relate to a story. So to keep in mind is to keep it simple, accessible to a range of audiences, always talking about Monica, always the user at the center. And this will help us to facilitate comprehension and memory. Sometimes as researchers, we also want to look very smart. That's not necessary. People know that you're smart, that you have collected all of the information. And I think that what it's most important is that our insights can have a call to action to persuade other people to do something that we haven't been doing from that point. So your research can actually have an impact. And that can be approached with a simple call to action. Sometimes we forget about what does this research could have an impact. So tell people, even if it's too obvious, spend some time to make your phrase about what can we do for Monica? What did we found that we can help her succeed in any of the jobs that we found? So I'm sorry if I have talked too fast.
No, it's fine.
No,
I
we're
think we
good.
have like 5 minutes left.
Perfect. So we invite you to duplicate this board, delete this part, bring your own canvas that you have worked, persona canvas, or it can be a user journey, and break it into these three acts. We recommend you that you practice, otherwise this will just be forgotten. Remember that you need to this repetition. So if you put it into practice, that's going to be easier for you.
Awesome. All right, everyone. I don't know if there are any questions. I think we have 5 minutes left or something like that. Marisa, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep, we have about 5 minutes left. And we did have some questions come in. I've been keeping track of them, so we can use the remaining 5 minutes and get into it.
Great.
Okay, the first question was from, I just tried to keep track of them in the order they came in, so apologies if I miss anybody's question. But the first question I saw was from Kat, and she asked, when you present the story to your audience, do you set up the layout ahead of time? Or are you suggesting an approach where you actually fill it out in real time with your audience?
Oh no, I will definitely have it lay out before. This part, I will recommend it to do it with your research team or with your product team, depending. But I wouldn't do it with the whole organization. This is more for you to see it.
I think the way we see it is kind of one more step. So most teams, when they get that Canvas clean look one pager, they stick it in the report. We're suggesting this one more step. So then you have that cool story that then you can turn into a video or a PowerPoint slide by slide. That's okay. But yeah, definitely have it ready beforehand.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, we have another question that we got from Chris, and they wanted to know if you ever find any concerns with research that might contain personally identifiable information or PII.
Yeah, super careful with that. Obviously, we never do it.
No.
We try to do all, I would say 100% of our services for research are user-centric and always anonymous. And we always have codes for videos and things, and never include names of anyone for anything or data.
Yeah, not even the images of the users. Yeah, some people want their privacy.
That makes sense. Okay, we had a few questions around the emojis, and I think Egon summarized it pretty well. They said, I definitely support the use of emojis and this informal, catchy way of presenting research results. One question about this, is there a risk that stakeholders won't trust the research results due to the funny way of presenting it? And how do you guys navigate that?
I think that we have faced that a lot. I think that at least I have 15 years working in design and research, and people don't believe that my age and the experience that I have. But I think that we have to also allow ourselves to be who we are at work. And even if this informality is something that might cause some uncomfort to certain stakeholders, especially in the C-suite, I think that the way to sell them to them is how lean it is. So when people attack this part of, oh, it looks childish, well, it took me 80% less time to get a designer. Of course, if you're going to have a full event where you're going to present personas and you're going to have this user-centric, week or day, yes, be better prepared. But the reality for most of UX researchers is that you have to do things super quick. And sometimes you don't have a designer to cover for you. And this part, always talking that this is the fastest way for you to have that impact. I even make the joke that, yes, but you will remember, which is my goal, right? So I will just try to give them those trade-offs. So
great. That makes sense. Okay, well, we're right at time. So Francisco, Maru, thank you so much. If people have other questions for you, is there somewhere where they can find you guys and chat more? or
Definitely.
a way that they can,
Yeah, we'll be
continue the
sticking around in
conversation.
the event for sure. And we can share our email if you want to.
Sure.
Chat.
Whatever you're comfortable with. If people have questions, I know that there are quite a few, getting lots of claps and
Yeah,
applause
that's
in the
great.
emoji in the chat as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, so there's my email. You can pin it if you want to. Please feel free to write us for anything. We'll be happy to help. We stand on the shoulder of giants. We didn't invent this. Norman Nielsen did, or well, they validated it for us, right? So we're definitely happy to share the knowledge with everyone. Yeah.
Great. Awesome.
Thank you all.
Thank you guys so much. Hope you have a
Thank
great
you.
rest of the distributed sessions.
Bye-bye, everyone.